Hey, guys, we're live. I'm Jeff with eBay Addicts, and today my guest is eBLISS Reseller Solutions. How are you guys doing today?
Good. What's up, Jeff? How you doing?
Hey, man, I appreciate you guys coming on. I tried to reach out to you a week or so ago, and we were trying to get the scheduling down. So, first of all, go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience in case they don't know who you are.
Great, thank you. I'm Lori Bilyeu, and this is my husband, Dave Bilyeu, and we run eBLISS Reseller Solutions. We've been eBay sellers for the last 8 years, solely selling on eBay, but recently we launched a fulfillment service for other eBayers and other online sellers, such as Poshmark, Mercari, those smaller platforms, who sell one-of-a-kind items that normally couldn't be, they couldn't use traditional third-party fulfillment options.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to put you guys on full screen so they can see you better. So,
okay.
There you go. So that way you don't have to like sit in each other's lap. So, there you go. So go ahead. So you guys have been resellers for 8 years. Where you guys didn't like start out being full-time resellers. Like, I'm just curious, what got you guys first started into being resellers? Like, were you watching YouTube videos one day? Were you just out yard selling with a buddy? Like, what was it that got your attention, that got you started into the reselling business?
Yeah, well, a friend of mine out in Colorado, we actually moved out to Colorado from New Jersey 8 years ago. And a friend of mine out here was a full-time reseller on eBay. And I started messing around, going to some auctions with him. And I stumbled upon the Goodwill bins. And I went in there and I couldn't get over that you could buy things for $1, $2 that were good quality. So I started flipping that part-time as a side hustle on eBay. And then after a year, I realized, hey, I could possibly make this a full-time gig for myself. And so I really went in hard and sourced consistently and did that for 2.5, 3 years. And it worked out well where the numbers were there. And then Lori realized, hey, we can make this both a full-time income for our household. And that's what we've been doing for the last almost
3 years.
Yeah, full-time, both of us. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I knew nothing about reselling. I knew nothing about eBay. All I saw was that he had built up a pretty consistent business by himself, just day in, day out, doing everything himself. And then he took on a little bit of help. He got a little bit of space. And I looked at his numbers and I said, if this is a numbers game, then we could do something with this. And if I put myself into the mix, then I became a completely, was another person. Like, I duplicated his efforts. And so we strove to increase our inventory. A couple months after I joined full time, we hired our first 2 part-time helpers, and they listed and shipped for us. And then we did all the sourcing. So that's when we really were able to grow quickly to get to the point where we could have the business be our full-time income, because this is our sole source of income.
Okay, awesome. Just give me 1 second. Let me catch a few people in the chat. I wanted to say hey to the Far North Life, and Tifa is here all the way from Alaska. And I wanted to say hey to Meritic7, says hello, eBay addicts and guests. So thank you guys for coming in and hanging out with us today. And if you have questions for our guests, drop it in the chat. So I'm just kind of curious. Can you tell me your backstory? Like, what was your occupation before you became full-time resellers? So what was like your background? What were you guys up to?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we lived in New Jersey. So we both went to Rutgers University. I majored in finance and economics. I was in the financial services industry for many years, and I was commuting into Philadelphia from Central Jersey, and it was a grind. But I enjoyed doing what I was doing back then because it was analytical. I love numbers. They kind of speak to me when you look at projections. So I was strictly like a planner, financial planning work. And that's what I had done for almost close to 20 years. But it was a desk job, 9 to 5 type of deal with a rough commute into Philly every day. And Lori was at home raising our kids during that time and working.
Right. My background's actually in music. I went to Rutgers, as Dave said, but I have a degree in music. And I used that quasi-professionally over the last 20 years, but just worked in a business, an environmental engineering firm. And then we both actually worked for Northwestern Mutual together for a couple of years. Then we moved out to Colorado, and we took those jobs with us.
Okay, awesome. So you guys had full-time jobs. You started doing reselling on the side. how long were you doing reselling part-time before you decided to become full-time resellers?
Yeah.
Was it, and also what was like the thing that attracted you the most to it? Was it like the freedom to kind of make your own schedule? Like what was the thing that you were just like, hey, you know what? I don't think I need to work this full 9-to-5 job, 40-hour a week rat race thing. I'm just going to stay home and post items on eBay and see what happens. Like to kind of explain the transition and how that came about.
I'm telling you, all of the above. Everything you just mentioned is exactly what clicked for me, and I hear it all the time. It clicks for other resellers. It's the freedom, it's the excitement, it's the thrill of the hunt for value. It's also the thrill of the hunt for the sale on eBay, and those type of components of reselling are they're fulfilling. They really are. It's exciting to me to be a reseller. I hear you. Like it's a tough thing for a lot of people that have a full-time job to jump fully into reselling as a full-time income. I would suggest, and I heard you speaking with Jameson yesterday, which was a great interview. You definitely want to get a few years under your belt and know your numbers and see the income steadily coming in. So the magic number, just to share with you, the magic number that worked for me to become a full-time income just for myself was around 1,000 listings on eBay, which with an average selling price of around $35 to $40, and turning that inventory over at a 20% rate. That was so predictable, and we just replicated that. So that's what, at that point, we realized, let's just make this happen. It's too good to be true, but with the numbers the way they are, we have so much freedom, and we love it. We really do.
Yeah. When you were talking about you had an analytical background, it's funny because when you compare what we do as resellers versus spending money in the stock market or something like that. Like, for example, yesterday I was at a thrift store and I found this wireless karaoke microphone at a thrift store for $2. And I just looked it up on eBay and it sells for $50. So I'm like, there's nowhere else in the stock market I can turn $2 into $50 and it sell within a week, 2 weeks. You know, it's just the numbers just aren't there. And,
right.
You know, like I said, when you have the time freedom to kind of be your own boss, set your own work schedule. And you know, something else that's nice is that if you want to give yourself a raise, you don't have to go to anybody and say, hey, I've worked real hard all year. Can I get a 50-cent raise or $1 an hour raise? You can just give yourself a raise anytime you want to. So how many items are you guys at now? I was listening to your podcast the other day, and I think you said you guys are at over 4,000 items on your eBay store. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We actually have 2 stores. So both of those stores have about 2,000 items on them each. And they're both mostly the same. They consist of the same merchandise. We sell mostly used electronics. So when you mentioned the karaoke microphone, that's something that sounds familiar to us. Yeah. We just hope that it works. But yeah, so about 4,000 items right now. Like Dave said, he started and had about 1,000 at a regular pace. And then when I came on board, we ramped it up really that much in the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, that's just the thing is that when you're doing something like that part-time, I just recommend people keep their job for a while because you have that steady stream of income. You know, every day, like clockwork on Friday, you're going to have your paycheck coming in where you can pay your rent and water and electric and gas and groceries, where you can pay your overhead expenses, and you still have money when your eBay business on the side that you can reinvest and grow your business over time. You know, so because the thing is like on paper, it might sound good. Like, oh yeah, I made 20 sales today on eBay, but then you're like, okay, wait a minute. I have to, I call it restocking the shelf. You have to replenish the items of stuff that's sold. So if you can't do that and then still try to withdraw money out of the business to pay yourself, you kind of put yourself into a little bit of a bind, you know?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
definitely. Like with the 1,000 listing number, I always look at it as if you could replenish what's coming out of the funnel each week, then you're golden. As long as you can match your ASP, and that the weekly sourcing number is anywhere from 30 to 50 items a week. If you could get those type of items, which people could easily do on a weekend, going out to a flea market or thrift stores, and you just list them that weekend, it definitely, the numbers don't lie. They tell the truth, and it's encouraging because with 1,000 listings at that ASP, most people could bring home a pre-tax income of around 40,000, and then you just extrapolate but you need help. There's no doubt about it. Where we are at right now, we couldn't have done this just by ourselves. We definitely invested in warehouse space, employees to help ship and list. And right now we have at 4,000 listings and the activity we have five employees, one full time, but it's around 120 employee hours a week to run our business. So you have to invest in your business to make it really work for you. So that's something that we got encouraged because we saw it work, and that's where we are now.
Okay, awesome. I have a question in the chat from Wild Roamers. He says, do you know about Amazon FBA? If so, what makes eBay reselling better than Amazon reselling?
Well, it's hard to say. We don't sell on Amazon, so we're not, I wouldn't say we're experts in that subject. We used to sell on Amazon just books and new things. I think it's a personal preference and depending on what you sell. If you sell lots of new items and you have replenishables and you have multi-quantity listings and you can ship that off to Amazon FBA, no problem, and they don't give you a hard time about being restricted or gated or anything like that, which to be honest, I don't know about because we don't do that, then great. I feel like eBay just gives you a little bit more broader of an audience in terms of what you can sell, whether it's new or used. I think they give you a little bit more flexibility in that. The only issue we found is that there wasn't a really good fulfillment, third-party fulfillment option for those sellers who wanted to sell on eBay, who had space issues, who had didn't like to ship every day. If they sold one-off items, if they had 4,000 individual listings like we did, and that was their business model because they were thrifters, they really didn't have a viable option to outsource that shipping and storage until we created eBLISS. That's why we created it for them. So it's really just a personal preference based on what you sell, I think. But from personal experience too, I know that eBay does, I mean, eBay's not perfect, we all know that, but they do really, I feel, put their sellers even though it doesn't seem like it sometimes, they really do try to support their sellers in every way they can. And at least that's been our experience. I'm not sure that's the way it is elsewhere.
Yeah, well, what I would say is, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, is that as far as traffic goes and as far as users on the platform, I think Amazon's number one, Walmart's number two, and I think eBay is number three. So you may get more traffic and you may be able to sales velocity maybe a little bit higher on Amazon. But on eBay, you're going to have higher margins. Like I said, for example, this karaoke microphone I found, paid $2 for it, and it sells on eBay for $50. Whereas if I was to sell the similar item and ship it into Amazon, you're going to pay all the fees with Amazon FBA, storage fees, pick and pack fees. There's a lot of other fees associated with that. But I wanted to ask you guys, since you guys have been on the eBay platform now for 8 years, can you kind of share with our audience maybe 3 or 4 tips that you could kind of share with our audience to kind of help them along with their reselling adventures or reselling business? And what would you recommend to somebody if they wanted to grow and scale their business? Because you guys have a big warehouse and you have employees and all that. So if you could like to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll speak to that because it was me that started off as a side hustle. And I realized once I started to plateau at around 500, I would say 800 listings. That's when I realized I'm putting in, I don't even know, like 12-hour days plus. Mm-hmm. And Lori was like, you're gone all the time. You're over I had a small little storage area. And that's when I realized you have to invest in your business. You shouldn't be afraid to invest in the process, in the business, because you should not look at it as an expense. Look at it as an investment. We were able to triple our revenues over 3 years once we got into a larger warehouse and we had the help. So don't be afraid to just invest more into space and employees. It's difficult, and that's why we started eBLISS. Just to reiterate what eBLISS is, it's a third-party logistics company to help thrifters that sell unlimited amount of SKUs, one-of-a-kind, thrifted, used type of items. It's unlike Amazon FBA that is looking for brand new multi-quantity SKUs. So by establishing and creating eBLISS, we were excited because we knew that we were going to be providing a service for thrifters that were looking to outsource the storage and the shipping. Many people are working out of their house. Some people are in a 1-2 bedroom apartment, and they stop at whatever their apartment could handle. That bugged us, because it's like, don't, like, make this into a full-time income. So that's why we're excited to offer eBLISS. But that's my tip about not being afraid to invest in your company. And I'm sure Lori has some more.
Yeah, my tips would be, especially when you're starting out, just to start out small and simple and grow from there. This didn't happen overnight. Obviously, this is, 8 years in the work, it didn't happen. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think with all of the media out there, or tips, or like YouTube or Facebook groups, or all these resources on reselling, people get the idea that, this is just gonna be like this. But it's something that has to grow. You have to nurture it. You have to learn it. And that's why I would recommend staying with one platform. Learn that like the back of your hand, and then if necessary, if you feel like you need to go onto other platforms, then venture out. But definitely got to know whatever platform you start out really well. And if that's eBay, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to know. Make your mistakes on things you don't buy yourself, that you don't spend money on. Start selling things out of your house just to get your feet wet and learn the platform, because you will make mistakes in the beginning. We had our share of mistakes, and it was a learning process over years. But that was the second thing I was going to say. Don't operate in a vacuum. I think for the first couple of years, we felt like we were the only resellers out there, and obviously that's not true. But that's how we operated, because we weren't involved in like either local meetup groups that eBay is very supportive of, or getting on watching YouTube videos, or being in Facebook groups. We did everything by ourselves, and we were just kind of figuring it out. You don't really have to do that, because a lot of other people have a lot of information to share, and you can learn from their mistakes. So.
Yeah, everybody has a little bit of a different business strategy, and everybody sells different products. So it's definitely interesting that you could kind of pick up a little tidbits from here and there from other people. And somebody might have a certain niche or market that they sell in and you don't sell, and you might walk right past something at a thrift store or Goodwill or yard sale that is profitable that you didn't know about previously. So for sure.
Yeah. When I first started doing this as a side hustle, I thought I uncovered such a unique opportunity in reselling. I didn't even know what the word reseller really meant. And I thought, wow, I'm the only person that's doing this. And after doing it for a year, I realized, oh, wait, everyone at the bins is doing this. So the best thing to do, as Lori mentioned, is network. Don't be shy. Don't be paranoid about sharing what you do with other resellers, because what they will do is they will come to you with items that they know you're interested in, and vice versa. So it almost is kind of like a team effort. We, at the level that we're at with 4,000 unique items, we rely upon other people to bring us things, as opposed to me just going out there. It's impossible for me to source 200 plus items at that a week, 200 plus items a week. So yeah, as Jameson was mentioning yesterday, you have to network, you have to go find these items, and that's how you scale your business.
Yeah, I've been trying to shortcut a little bit by buying items in bulk. And when you can order 100, 200, 500 items and it shows up at your front door, you have to think about how much man hours and how much time you spend driving around the city, spending your gas money, waiting in line to check out, trying to find a parking space. You can just snap your fingers and say, whoop, add to cart, and it shows up at your front door in a week. So I've definitely been trying to, shortcut that. It's like, as you grow, you kind of like, wait a minute, especially when you're trying to just check out and the guy's there telling jokes or talking about the weather, and you're like, dude, I have stuff I have to do today. Like, I got to go, I don't have time to dilly-dally around, so I definitely can relate to that. We got some questions in the chat. I want to say hey to Hollywood Reseller, The Bearded Thrift Machine, Miratic 7, and Wild Roamer. So we're going to tackle some of these questions. They want to get into your eBLISS system, business that you guys have. The Hollywood Reseller says, who pays for shipping to send the items to your location? So you want to talk a little bit about shipping?
Sure. Yeah, actually we do. And that's pretty opposite of most third party logistics. Usually you have to pay to get it into the facility, but we actually pay for that via FedEx. There are some restrictions to that, but most people will not pay very much to get their items to us. The outbound shipping, however, the shipping to the buyer is still paid by the seller, which is actually usually is opposite as well. So that's the way we do it.
Okay, awesome. And we have another question from Miratic7. He says, what items do you guys accept? Is there any restrictions on items that they can send in?
Right. We do have some restrictions in the terms of size and weight because our service is geared towards resellers like us who sell small to medium sized items. We do have a size restriction of about 14 by 20. It has to fit in a 14 by 20 Ziploc bag, and it should weigh not. I'm sorry.
Oh, we provide all those bags and materials to get it into us. So
And then the weight is about 6 pounds. So we don't take a lot. We don't take big, heavy, bulky items, golf clubs, receivers, things like that. And we don't take breakables. And then anything obviously that you can't sell on eBay, we won't take that either. So.
Yeah. So you guys sell smaller items like shoes, clothing, hats, things like that. Smaller items you can fit in a bag, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to say hey to the Twin Flippers is in the chat. Thank you guys for coming out and hanging out with us today. We have the question from the Wild Roamers. He says, how do you guys find most of your items in the UK? There are things like thrift shops aren't really around. Is there any other ways that you guys find and source items?
Yeah, well, I do go to flea markets a lot. And I would also suggest Facebook Marketplace. A lot of people I know source good type of items off of Facebook Marketplace. That's one way to do it, as opposed to going around to all the thrift stores. That's one good. Yeah, but I agree. If you're in a tough area, you have to be creative with your sourcing. And that's where sharing what you do with other people comes into play. You'd be surprised how many things people are willing to donate to a charity, but they just don't have the means or time. So if you could be a vehicle for them, for their items, and possibly consign for them or share in the profits, it's a great business model.
And people always have things they want to get rid of usually. So you can find it somewhere.
Yeah, I was just going to say, guys, there's no shortage of inventory. You could get inventory everywhere. You can get stuff from retail arbitrage. I buy stuff at the Dollar Tree all the time, items that I'll pay $1 for and flip them and resell them. You could get stuff at Walmart clearance. You could go to yard sales, estate sales, church sales, thrift stores, pawn shops. I mean, there's literally no shortage of ways to get merchandise. One of my favorite things here lately, like I said, is online arbitrage, where I buy a bunch of items in bulk. For example, I bought 1,000 CDs for $400 and they're brand new in the shrink wrap. So my buy cost is 40 cents a piece. And if I could sell them for, let's say, a minimum of $10 a piece times 1,000, you're turning your initial investment of $400 into $10,000 worth of merchandise. So, I mean, that's this. I'm just using that as an example. You don't have to be CDs. It could be video games. It could be DVDs. Just go on eBay and type in, let's say, TV remote wholesale lots. Type that in and it'll pop up. You can go on Craigslist and type in on Craigslist. You can go to the free section on Saturday, Sunday. People have items left over from yard sales that they don't want to drag back into their house in the garage. They'll put it out to the street curb and you can just go by and pick it up for free. And you get free inventory to list. So, I mean, I could probably think of 10 different ways just off the top of my head. There's no shortage of merchandise. I feel like there's just a shortage of people that want to hustle. So as long as you're willing to hustle and put the work in, and you're willing to reinvest your money back in your business, because that's another sticking point. I mean, you guys talked about having a shortage of space and store your merchandise, but just having the willingness to say, hey, you know, I could take this $100 and buy this new watch that I've had my eye on, or go buy these new pair of shoes, or go on a vacation, or I could take this money and go buy merchandise for my eBay business. And when all your bills are paid, it's kind of tempting to be like, hey, I have this money sitting over here that I can access and go buy these new pair of shoes or a purse or this new video game system that I want for myself, but have the discipline and say, no, I'm going to take this money and invest it into my business and grow. Because I look at it as like, I'm 36. I was looking the other day, I was thinking, you know what? By the time I'm 40 years old, I could be basically semi-retired and, you know, be able to think about it. If you retired at age 40 and you live to be age 80, you have 40 years to go do whatever you wanted to go do. You wouldn't miss none of your kids' baseball games, birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. You would have time freedom to go do whatever you want to go do. And think about, like, if you sold items on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you didn't have to ship out till Monday. You'd have all this time freedom to go do whatever you wanted to go do. And, you know, it wouldn't take you very long to pull, pack, ship your items and drop it in the mailbox, and then you're free. You could go out to dinner with your family. I'm just telling you guys, man, the older I get, man, life goes by short. It goes by really quick. There's guys that I graduated high school with back in 2002, and they ain't here right now. Like, they're not here. They're not alive. You know, they're gone. So whatever time you have left, try to make the most of it. So anyway, sorry guys, I go on a rant sometimes, but let me catch a few people in the chat. We got the flipping sports guy is here. We got the cap guy is here. Hey, what's up, cap guy? We got Wild Roamers is here. We have Javela Flips Annie is here, and we have Flip the World. So I'm going to put you guys back on full screen, and we'll try to tackle some of these questions. Flip the World says, I know you can't give a definite number, but say shoes, what is the average fee that you guys charge to ship out the items? Because it starts off at like $4. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah, it really comes down to there's three components of our service. It's the receiving on a monthly basis. Just to let you know, like we onboard all of our clients' existing inventory essentially for free. So we have that FedEx ground shipped into us. We get it on our shelves, and you're off and running. The monthly ongoing items that you would send in, there's a receiving fee. Average is around like $2.30 just for that. And then on the back end, once things sell, there's a fulfillment fee, which is $1.99. So that's where the $4 comes in. If you send it into us and it sells within the first month, $4. It really doesn't matter what the size is for the most part. The variable is how long it's going to stay on the shelves. So many people, and the reason why we break it down like this, and just to let you know, the monthly storage per item listed is around 68 cents per month. So the reason why we break this down is so our clients know when they're out in the field, if they see something that they could sell for maybe $20 on eBay, after the fees and then the shipping label on eBay and then the eBLISS fee, they may say, I might be only left with maybe $5 or $6 if it sells within a couple months. But this is a long tail item. It's probably not worth it. So it makes it easier for them when they're sourcing in the field to break down the cost like that. But back to the question about the shoes, yeah, typically anywhere from $4 to $8, let's just say, and $8 is on something that is going to stay in storage for 6 to 8, 10, 12 months typically. So hopefully that answers the question there.
I want you guys to keep in mind that you're also paying eBay fees and you have to subtract your cost of goods. And then if you have PayPal fees or eBay managed fees, that's going to be taken out of there as well. So you just keep that and factor it in there. So we have a question from Wild Roamers. We just talked about this a minute ago. He says, you guys usually charge the buyer for shipping or pay for it yourself as far as having the item shipped into your warehouse?
Right, that's correct. For the items coming to us, we pay for that for the most part. For the shipping going to the buyer, that is paid by the seller or our client.
Okay, just awesome. We have a question from Hollywood Reseller. He wants to know, is there a limit to how many items that he can ship in?
No, we don't have a limit and we don't have a minimum either. All that we ask is that you try to stay consistent, because we found that consistency on both ends helps us and our clients. So typically our clients will pick a schedule that works for them, and we just ask you to be consistent with that schedule so we can anticipate the labor needs and be able to turn around your items within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay, awesome. We have another question that says, how much room would I need to start at the very start of the process? So, like, is there a minimum order? Does he have to send in 100 or 200 items? Or if he just has 10 or 15 or 20, could they just send that in? Or how would that work?
No, typically what we will do is we'll have a Zoom call with all of our potential clients, and we'll talk about their business and talk about what their goals are. Typically what we're doing is we're onboarding those that have anywhere from over 200 listings. And the reason being is this demonstrates that they're a serious reseller. They're not going to get kicked off a platform, and they're taking their business seriously. So there is no minimum. There is a minimum of, we'd like to keep it around 200 onboarding items. Right. And just to let you know, all of our clients' items are bagged individually based on your listing. They're stored in a designated tote for them. They are not commingled with any other inventory. So they're secure. We have a secure warehouse security here. So yeah, there is. And as far as the upside potential, if someone feels like they could scale their business to 4,000 listings, we could accommodate that. We have access to a lot of warehouse space in the Denver area, and we are actually layering on 4,000 additional square feet to where we're currently at within the next month.
Okay, awesome. And Miratic7 says, do you guys list items for sellers as well?
Actually, it's funny that he mentioned that. When we originally thought about doing this service, that was part of our plan. But through the beta testing process, we found out that that's probably not the best use of our time. So we do not list. However, if somebody wants us to take pictures for them, we can do that for an extra charge.
Okay, so to sum up your guys' business model, it's very similar to Amazon FBA. The customer or the eBay seller will list their items on the eBay platform, and then they'll put like a special SKU number in the comments section so they know what box or bin it goes into. They'll box it up, mail it off to your warehouse, put it in like these little poly bags or clear bags, and then whenever the item sells, you guys will store the item for them in the warehouse, and you'll pack and pick and pull the order, box it up, slap a shipping label on it, and ship it out to the customer. Is that correct so far?
That's correct. You have it down.
Okay, I have a question. It's Jay from the Cap Guy, and JT says, I have 3,800 items listed on eBay, but would it be costly to ship these items LTL? They let you ship their items into their warehouse for free, right?
Right. The onboard, whatever you have listed is considered your onboarded inventory, and we do pay for that to come in. And I'm assuming LTL. He's meaning a freight type thing. Believe it or not, we don't use freight. So we have a process that we would follow in that case. For larger sellers, that process will be a multi-week process. It's not done all at once.
Yeah, our negotiated rate with FedEx Ground right now is competitive, and that's our goal, is to not have this be inhibiting for those who want to scale their business. That's why we are onboarding all of our clients for free. Now, it is just to let you know, as long as you're with us for a certain time period, yes. If you leave within a year, we will have to revisit that charge to get all of your inventory into us. We just don't want people sending in items and then blowing it all out within the first month and then calling it a day. So.
Yeah, and so I had a couple of questions. What is, first of all, tell us a little bit about this contest you guys entered in as far as the FedEx thing. Can you guys touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, actually, we entered the 9th annual, I think it is, FedEx Small Business Grant Contest. And so FedEx gives, apparently for the last 9 years, has given away money prizes to deserving small businesses. The grand prize is $50,000. And so we, for the last 2 weeks, we've had our friends and family and followers voting for us, because in order to proceed to the next round of this contest, you have to fall in within the top 700 in terms of voting. And there were over 6,000 entrants. So that's a lot. That's a tall order. So the voting ends tonight. We could vote once every 24 hours, but today is the last day you can vote. If you go to FedEx.com, they have a banner on there where you click and you can say vote, and then you just can put eBLISS in the search bar, and you'll come up with our submission, and you can vote with every email address that you have every 24 hours. But like I said, it ends tonight at midnight.
Yeah, I think I voted 2 or 3 times to try to help out. I do whatever I can to help out the community. So hopefully you guys will advance to the next round. So talk to me a little bit about what are some of your goals or projects that you guys have for this year and next year in the future? Because you guys, how big is the warehouse that you currently have now? And what's the square footage of it? And how many employees do you guys currently employ?
Yeah, we have 5 employees. We have a 2,000 square foot warehouse. As I mentioned earlier, next month, we're adding on another 4,000. So we're going to have a 6,000 square foot warehouse. And we do have access to a lot of square footage in the area that we're located south of Denver. And we're excited to be located centralized in the country, because it allows us, we have access to Denver Airport and major whatever you want to call them. It's just shipping hubs. Yeah, that allows us to get our products out. We ship out the same or next business day for all of our clients. So yeah, we're excited. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but we would love to be in a 20, 50, 100,000 square foot warehouse within a couple, let's just say, years. We'll sign up for that.
Okay, cool. I didn't want to ignore the chat. We got a question from Hollywood Reseller. He says, let's say an item of mine sells, would I be notified automatically? I mean, you should be notified by your eBay app, correct?
That's correct. We check each client's accounts every morning for all the shipping that needs to be done. And so it's done every morning. So they would not, in that case, they would not have to give us any notification. We would know automatically. If an item did sell on an off platform, such as Mercari or any of the other smaller platforms like that, then they would have to send us the label. And then we could ship it.
Okay, I have a question. It's kind of an off-the-wall question, but what if somebody has a particular item and they have it like cross-listed on like 3 or 4 other platforms and that item sells? Would they have to notify you guys, or would they give you like, hey, here's my username and password to Mercari and Poshmark and these other apps to let you guys know that the item is notified that it had been sold? Or how exactly would that work? I'm just curious.
Right. Well, up until this point, we've always said that all our clients had to at least be listing on eBay. And that was because that's what we know. That's our background. That's how we started. But as we've launched, we've discovered that there are a whole other slew of sellers out there who do sell on the other platforms and don't want to sell on eBay. So we are actually in the process of creating a program for those kind of sellers. But then the caveat there is they'll have to sell on Poshmark, because that's the other main platform that most of our clients would sell on. So as long as they sell on either one of those 2 platforms, they wouldn't have to notify us. But if they do sell an item on Citizen or Depop or Mercari or any of these other platforms that are not eBay or Poshmark, all they have to do is send us the label. So as long as you can send us the label for that item, then we can fulfill it. But then it's up to the seller to still delist their item on those other platforms, just like they would if they weren't using a third-party logistics service.
Most likely, those type of clients are going to be using Vendoo or List Perfectly to cross-post their items, so they're still responsible for delisting.
Yeah, so basically the main thing that they're outsourcing is the space of storing the item and packing and pulling and shipping the item, correct? Like what if a customer has a customer return or an issue like that? What would they be mailing the item back to the seller's address, or would they mail it back to your warehouse? How would that work?
For the most part, they would send them back to the seller, because we don't want to get in the middle of that process, because that's not what we want to be involved in. The only exceptions to that rule would be if that seller was a mobile seller, like an RVer who didn't have a place to send their items back to. We would work out some things that we could handle that for them. But on the most part, it goes back to the seller, because as we know, we don't always want to get an item back. And if we do, we want to have control over what we want to do with that item once it does get back. So
yeah, for example, someone you had on a couple days, I think it was last week, actually, Sebastian. He shared that they're going to be living the nomadic, digital nomad lifestyle, and he's going to still maintain his reselling business. They're going to be working with us. We're going to be onboarding all of his items within the next day.
I already did.
Okay, we finalized it today. And when they're out in the field, they're going to be thrifting. So they're going to be sending in items to us. So as Lori mentioned, he's not going to have the ability to have a return sent to his van wherever he is. So we're going to work with him, and if he desires to have that item sent to us, we could handle that for him.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are providing a valuable service to people, because I've been there before. I was at one time, I had like a little 1-bedroom apartment, and I had like 5,000 items in this like one little bedroom apartment, and I was just like, man, where am I going to keep putting all this inventory? I can't. It's already stacked up to the ceiling. After a while, you have to get to the point where you're either going to have to get a storage unit, or you're going to have to get a shed or a garage. But you're going to have to come up with alternative ways to store your merchandise. And if you didn't want to invest and sign a big lease for a warehouse, and because sometimes when you guys sign a lease for a warehouse, it's like a 2 or 3 year lease, and you're locked into that lease over a long-term contract, correct?
It's like 3 or 5 typically.
Yeah.
For real warehouse space.
And the warehouse space can be costly. I mean, I've talked to some people and they're paying $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month for a warehouse space, and that's not counting anything. That's not counting water, electric, cable, internet, and anything else. That's just to have a roof over your head, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and Jeff, like one of our clients just shared with us the other day, they're just excited because they don't have to pick, pack, and ship their items, and not only that, but picking and packing their items. Sometimes they can't even find their items at home. So they shared with me that they were spending anywhere from 5 to 7 hours a week, start to finish, picking, packing, shipping, and then hauling their packages to the USPS or FedEx. And what they're doing now is they're using that extra 5 to 7 hours a week to source more, which is what they do best. So they're excited about that. So they're using their freed up time to source more. And other people are just enjoying the freedom, saying, hey, I could go on vacation and not have to put my store on time away or have to worry about coming back from vacation and shipping out
A gazillion things.
Yeah, right.
And another thing we found that a lot of people get into this business so they can work from home. They don't want to go outside the home to work. Like that's kind of like the whole point. And so having to get space outside their home is going to be a big issue. And so by outsourcing that, they can stay working from home without even skipping a beat.
Yeah, well, I mean, people's residential homes are designed to be residential, and if you have a husband or wife or spouse and they're not into reselling, they don't see profit margin. They just see junk piling up in their house, and they just can't deal with it. They're just like, I can't deal with 2,000 items stacked up in my living room. And you might have cats, dogs, kids, other people that might get into your inventory. And if you have it, off site where it's not in your house, you have your space back and you have your house back. You actually have room for park your car in the garage instead of eBay merchandise. Or you can actually fit a couch in your living room instead of a bunch of boxes of shoes. So that to me, the biggest point is, you were talking about earlier is that if you want to grow or scale your business, I feel like there's 3 major choke points: is your time, your money, and then your space. Because you're going to run out of space. You only have so many hours in a day and so many hours in a week. And how much time do you actually have as far as sourcing and packing and pulling orders and handling customer service and listing items? I mean, all that stuff takes time, right?
Yep.
Totally. Yep. Another one of our clients is like, oh, I got a great motto for you guys. And we're like, what? They're like, get your house back, get your spouse back. And I was like, oh, you know what? That's true, but we don't want to promote that. But and as you mentioned, Jeff, not all couples are aligned when it comes to reselling. So that's true. Inventory takes up a spare bedroom or a basement or a garage. And we're just excited to have the ability to restore the joy of reselling for a lot of resellers that got into it in the first place because of the fun, the sourcing, and to eliminate the back end of their business is fun. They feel free again.
Yeah, a lot of people, they love doing the sourcing part, going to the thrift stores, yard sales, garage sales, estate sales, finding the treasure. But then as far as the back end, doing the shipping and all the other stuff, pulling items, it's not so fun for them. I really don't mind it because every time I'm boxing up an item and shipping it out, I'm like, oh, here's a $30 DVD that I paid 50 cents for. So every time I ship out an item, I'm like, they're $30, $20, $15, $20. So that's the way I look at it. So it doesn't really bother me. But to some people, they just loathe it. They hate it. They don't like doing the shipping part. And if they can outsource that to another third party, like I said, it frees up space, it frees up time, and also it gives you more time to do what you do best. If what you do best is doing sourcing and going out and finding, and you're a bargain hunter and you can negotiate and find good deals, it frees up more of your time where you could go out and do that instead of sorting through your inventory. Because as well, that one of the things that a lot of resellers don't talk about is not just the shipping and pulling orders, it's actually sorting and keeping everything organized as well. Like in my shed, for example, I have a whole shelf with Blu-rays. I have a whole shelf of video games. And then in the video game section, I might have Nintendo Wii, Xbox 360, PS2, PS3. So it takes time out of your day to have everything organized. So that way, when something sells, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a PS3 video game. I got to go to the PS3 video game section and pull it and pack it and ship it. But so yeah, it can definitely. There are a lot of things that with your business model that can help people. Let me catch a few people in the chat. We got Steve here from Resell Dojo. He says, "Let's go." We got Jen's Closet Gems here. He says, "Hey Jeff and eBLISS, can't stay long. Lots of videos to watch today." I know, right? And Jen says, "Good point. Most couples are opposite in personality, so it transfers over to business mentality." I know. Tell me about it. Usually, I'm not the spender in the relationship. I'll tell you that. I'm not. I'm not the spender. Meritic7 says, "How many locations do you have, and do you have a waiting list?"
Yes, we only have the one location at the moment, and we do actually have a waiting list because we are pretty much maxed out where we are right now. But like Dave said, by early May, we will be able to onboard additional clients. So it's a perfect time to give us a call, to chat, and see if your business makes sense for this model. And because there are some things you have to do just to get ready, to get your items ready to onboard. So it's not like you can just send us our items like next week. It takes a little bit of time. So it's a perfect time. In about 6 weeks or so, a month and a half, we'll be able to take on some additional clients and hopefully a lot more.
Awesome. So tell everybody where they can find you guys at, because you guys are on Instagram, you have a website, you're on YouTube. I have your links in the description below. But if they want to go and look you up and check your business out, how do they go about getting in contact with you, or how do they go about looking you up to get more information?
Yes, eBLISSreseller.com is our website. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn is eBLISS Reseller Solutions. And on our website, we actually have many ways to contact us. You can set up a Zoom call, which we'll be glad to take half an hour and talk to you about your business. You can send us an email and get on our email list, or you can chat with us. There's a little chat feature on the website as well. So, but if you're better with DMing and Instagram, that's fine. If you want to send us a Facebook message, whatever works for you, we'll be able to get that message.
Yeah. Also on our website, there is a calculator, an estimated cost calculator that it'll allow our potential clients to see just how much the monthly charge would be based on your activity. So that could help answer a lot of questions as well. So check out our website, and also just DM us, and like Lori said, just reach out. We're resellers. We love this stuff. We want to help other resellers. We have a passion for it, and that's why we're thrilled to offer this service to any reseller.
Okay, awesome. Do you have any other tips or tricks or anything else that you could share with us before we let you go as far as reselling goes?
I would say delegation. Don't be afraid of delegating mundane, non-revenue producing tasks in your business. A lot of people get scared because, well, if I delegate, that means it's going to cut into my profit. You'd be surprised. Once you delegate something, it opens up your business to scale at a greater rate. As you mentioned, Jeff, there's only so many hours in a day. And back to the story about our client that has freed up anywhere from 5 to 7 hours a week, not having to pick, pack, and ship. She's able to, and I think, this is the average. Most resellers are able to go out and source anywhere from $150 to $250 in, let's call it eBay gross sales market value. And that if you did the math on that, that's an extra $1,000 plus a week in inventory that you could acquire, you could procure and get that listed up on your account. And it's just a matter of time before it sells. So look at it that way. That freed up time transfers into cash. So don't be afraid to delegate.
Yeah. I mean, I just went to a thrift store yesterday and I spent $6 and got $120 worth of merchandise that I could sell on eBay. And I went to a thrift store last week and I just hit up 2 thrift stores and I spent less than $20 and I got over $300 worth of merchandise that I could resell. And, like I said, you only have so many hours in a day to allocate towards sourcing. And like I said, because you have to do shipping and pulling orders and handling customer service and things like that. So, hey, I wanted to ask you guys one more quick question before we let you go. How long were you guys working your business before you were able to hire employees and kind of grow and scale your business to where you could kind of get a warehouse and grow your business to get to that point?
Well, it was done in phases. So Dave was able to get a small warehouse space And then I think he added on a small, very part-time employee to help him with listing. And so he did it very incrementally. It wasn't until he was about 1,200 listings where we realized, when I came on board, that he realized that we needed to get people beyond ourselves, because at that time we were doing everything. We were sourcing, shipping, and listing every day. And so when we hired 2 part-timers at around this 3-year mark, 4-year mark, somewhere around there, about 1,200 listings, that's when we were able, because we were sourcing at the bins and our COGS were really low. And we did that for quite a while, but it got to the point where that wasn't enough. And then so Dave started to get sourcing from other people. And that's what we do now, is he's got a network of people who buy for him. And that's not something a lot of sellers can do, because all of a sudden your COGS go from 2% to 30%. And it's like, oh, okay. But it's the only way to have the volume. So that I would say it was about 1,200 listings, and I forget what the revenue was at that time exactly. But once we did that and we scale and we ramped it up, I mean, we were listing way more than we were selling. And that's the only way you can grow. You have to list more than you sell, otherwise you'll stay where you are. And yeah, so that's really what it took. But at the beginning, it was small steps that he took to get there.
Yeah, well, I think what I'm trying to get at is, like, what would you say is your like revenue per month or per year, where you got to the point where you're like, hey, I think we're making enough money in sales where I could hire somebody part-time. Maybe you can hire someone as an eBay lister, or someone to help photograph, or maybe somebody to help pack and pull orders. Like, what was like the tipping point for you when you're like, I think we could bring somebody on part-time? Because I don't know about where you guys are at in Colorado, but here in Florida, they just passed a law where they're raising minimum wage to $15 an hour. So if I was to hire an employee for $15 an hour just to list items or take photographs, it would cut into my profit margins. I mean, if you paid them $15 an hour and they work 20 hours a week, that's like what, $300 that you just paid them? So that cuts into your profit margin substantially.
Yeah, I think the answer to your question, it really varies per person, what you're selling, the volume, your ASP. I'll share a number with you. To get let's just call it a 1,000 square foot warehouse with some help, just to break even, just to share with you, you're going to need to increase your sales by $3,000 just to net break even to where you were before. Because as you mentioned, Jeff, like the rent on somebody's, it could be like $1,500 all in with the utilities and internet, et cetera, and then the employee. So yeah, I would say $3,000 a month is what the gross lift in sales should be, just to break even, to get into 1,000 square foot place. So it's a big commitment, and it's all about the numbers. It's all about knowing your numbers. And that's why we couldn't really answer that, because it also comes down to what you're getting your inventory at, your cost of goods. If you're getting it for pennies on the dollar, yeah, you could afford that. But a lot of people can't, because their cost of goods are typically around 25%.
Yeah, well, what I'm getting at is that, like, you could have a slow week or a slow month in sales on eBay, but you still have these overhead expenses. The employees still got to be paid. You still have to pay your warehouse. You would still have to pay your water and electric. You would still have your other overhead expenses would still be there. They don't care if you have a good month or a bad month in sales. Like, they still need to be paid. You know, it's like you still have hungry mouths to feed, is what I'm trying to get at. Anyways, I appreciate you guys coming on. We've been streaming for about an hour. Go by and check them out. Their links are down below on Instagram and YouTube and their website. You can go by and get in touch with them and hang out with them. Give me your final thoughts, and we'll let you guys go. And hopefully we'll have you guys on again sometime soon, maybe in May, or when you guys open up again to take on new clients, we'll have you on again in the future, right?
That would be great. We'd love that. Just a final thought. I don't know if we mentioned that we are the Denver eBay meetup coordinators here in Denver. And so eBay has all sorts of meetup groups all over the country. And so I highly recommend any eBay reseller to get plugged into a group, whether it's local or they're doing them on Zoom mostly right now, which you could join any of them. And just don't operate in a vacuum. Learn from others, share your knowledge with others. And it becomes a big part of the community. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's definitely different when you're around like-minded people, as opposed to people that are complacent and they're not, they're happy with their $10, $15 an hour job. They're not trying to progress. They're not trying to expand or grow their business. They just want to come home and watch reruns of the Seinfeld or Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy. They're not trying to like grow their business. So definitely, for sure, when you're around like-minded people, when you're around people that are small business owners or people that are trying to grow their business, it actually helps you, believe it or not, because you're around, what do they say? You're the average of your 5 closest friends.
Mhm.
So if you're around like-minded people, that definitely helps you out subconsciously. So anyways, I want to thank our guests for coming on today. I want to thank everybody in the chat for coming on and hanging out with us. And I will see you guys tomorrow. I have, what is it? Sell Quick, Ship Quick are on from California. So if you guys want to come by and check them out, I'll see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. See you then. You guys have a great day. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.